Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. I'd like to call to order our first meeting for the 2022 session of the House Budget Review Subcommittee on Personnel, Public Retirement, and Finance. And to begin, I want to make sure our members were provided information prior to the meeting on how to access the meeting remotely. And make sure, I hope everyone has received their meeting materials. I believe we have those right there. And ask this time for the secretary to call the roll. And ask each member, if you're attending remotely, to please let us know whether you're here in person or remote.
Representative Graham. Representative Koenig. Representative Meredith. Representative Pratt. Representative Raymond. Representative Tate.
Present in the room.
Representative Petrie. Representative Reed.
Here in the room.
Chair Dossett.
Present in the committee room. Being that we have no minutes, we can move on from that, and we'll have our guests. Or if they're visiting remotely, we have David Eager, who's the executive director of the KPPA, and Rebecca Atkins, who is the deputy executive director. And ask that you both, as you introduce yourself and state your names, please.
Yeah, this is David Eager. I'm the executive director of the KPPA.
Go ahead again, please.
I'm Rebecca Atkins. I'm the executive.
Thank you. And we're in a new location. I don't think any of us have actually had a committee.
Yeah.
Happy to be here and ask you to please go ahead with your presentation.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, with your permission, I'd like to make a few opening comments. I will say that Rebecca, our Deputy Executive Director, is most closely tied to the budget process, and she'll take the bulk of this presentation. But I think it's wonderful that we have opportunity to interact with the legislators, and we are greatly appreciative of the help we've gotten particularly since 2014 with Senate Bill 2, the installation of Tier 3. We've worked hard to get our assumptions in line in 2017, which resulted, unfortunately, in substantially higher contributions for the state and for employers. But it was required. We were so poorly funded that we needed to tap into the resource, and we understand it's painful, but we greatly appreciate it. The passage of House Bill 8 has helped solve the problem we have of the declining employer payrolls and the resulting skyrocketing of contributions to unsustainable levels. We're quite appreciative of the opportunity. We welcome inquiries and calls and questions, not only during this meeting, but at any time. We really welcome legislators to reach out to us if they have questions or constituent issues. So with that, I will turn it over to Rebecca, and thank you.
Good morning. I think I have the mic on now. Yes. Okay. So we had a very brief presentation for you on our PowerPoint because we only got part of your questions at the beginning. I think we got it all straightened out, so I have a whole list of your particular questions. I'll just work through them if that's okay with you guys, and then feel free to interrupt at any point. So the first question was, why didn't KPPA expend all of its 2021 appropriation? So in 2021, you can see on our slide, we had $48,888,200 in our budgeted, and we expended $35,750,000. That's pretty much the pattern for KPPA, especially since pensions have become so underfunded. We leave some wiggle room in the budget for major legislation implementation. Usually the turnaround time on those is pretty small, and so we don't know if we have to go out and get some outside help to get that done in a timely manner, or if we would require some overtime. So we leave quite a bit of wiggle room in the budget for that. The fiduciary duty that we have is to the members of the trust, to the plan itself, and to the members in that trust. So we don't spend anything that we don't have to spend. We're very careful about all of that. Any money that's unspent, it's all restricted funds. It comes straight out of the trust and returns to the trust at the end of the fiscal year, or more likely was never pulled down in the first place. So we monitor how much spending is going on, and we don't pull down the entire budgeted amount out of the trust so that things can remain invested as much as possible.
Rebecca, could I make one quick comment?
Of course.
The $35,750,000 is about 17 basis points on our average assets last year. It's about less than 16 on the final assets. The last I saw, industry norms were somewhere between 17 and 19. So if you think about us in terms of peer groups, we are in the range, and we are certainly much more complicated and complex than the average system. So as a kind of from a thermometer standpoint, we're at 98.6.
The next question you asked is why the large increase over 21? And the increase is over the expenditures, but it's not over the budgeted amount. So it's just over $1 million budgeted. We asked in 21, and again for 23-24, we asked for a flat to keep the budgeted what it was. The additional amount is from the Office of the State Budget Director, and he's that group is looking at expected personnel expenses. I think this year one of the things they were looking at is could we put 27 payroll periods in the current year, or so that we can go back to the July being paid in to the June being paid in July and not the other way around like it has been for several years. So we asked for $48,005,500, which is what our budget we've been working off of for 22. So the 48,116 is reflective of these defined calculations that the Office of the State Budget Director adds, as is the 48,587.2 and the 48,766 for 23 and 24. Those are the defined calculations that are specific to the payroll goals that they anticipate at the budget office. We still expect to be well under both of those. I gave you the expenditures for the last few fiscal years. I gave you the 22 expenditures here at 19.9. That is as of December 31. We are a little heavier in the first half of the year than the back. It's usually about 48%. So we expect spending for this year to be about 39.9. That's what I'm estimating. You asked for specific details, and I'm sorry I don't have a slide for this. For 23 and 24, staffing, KPPA staffing, we have a cap of 270. We generally hover around 250, not because we don't want to be at 270, but because we have the same issues all the other agencies are having in the state, and that's turnover and the application process and just trying to keep that going. So staff salaries are about 75 to 77% of the budget, so they're 36.3 or 37.7 million of the 48,587. Service contracts, so I'm sorry, the salaries include salaries, retirement benefits, other kinds of benefits, overtime, all of that would fall under that 75%. Service contracts, so things like the actuary, which is one of our major service contracts, the external auditor, multiple legal contracts. Those service contracts are about 3.1 million. Operations, which includes information technology, rent, travel, training, office expenses, things like that, are $8 to $9 million, for a total of 48.6 and 48.7 million on 23 and 24. I'm sorry, that's not in a slide. Do you want me to repeat that? Is that okay? Okay. You asked, were the requested appropriations approved by the board? No, that is a mistake on my part. Trying to get it right, I missed the date. So we had to submit in KBUD by 11/1, and the boards weren't meeting until after that, but they have all seen it. So CERS Finance Committee saw it first on 11/3. They don't vote on it. The KPPA board votes on it, but others want to see it. So the CERS Finance Committee saw it on 11/3. The full CERS board saw it on 11/10. The KRS board saw it on 12/2, and then KPPA board voted and approved on 12/8. So they have all seen it, but they did not see it ahead of time, as we would absolutely prefer them to see it ahead of time. The timing, oh, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
Question, Representative Reed?
Thank you, Chairman. You answered the question on that, but going forward from this point on, how do you have plans on preventing that, bringing your plan before the board instead of after the fact?
I do.
Okay,
I do.
all right.
So September is their regular quarterly meeting. It's probably too early, but I don't know that for sure. I'm hoping that we can give them a really good idea of what we want and get their feedback and make the changes that they wish in September. But if not, they'll have to have a special call to meeting, because they have September quarterly meetings and they have November quarterly meetings.
So you're going to account for that moving forward then?
We will.
Thank
we'll
you very
have
much.
to, yes.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I would add, if I could, traditionally, we've not done that. We've not had board approval, but internally staff said, we really think we should go and get board approval in this coming year. And so we've taken the initiative to tell the board we're going to do it.
Okay. You asked for a review of our org structure, including the number of employees. So the CERS statute 78782 sets up the CERS board, which is a 9-member board. 3 of them are elected by the membership. The other 6 are appointed by the governors from lists from Kentucky League of Cities or Kentucky Association of Counties or the School Board Association. They have to employ 2. One, a chief executive officer. The CEO of CERS is here this morning. Ed Owens is over here in the corner. And then they have to employ a legal counsel. They can employ either a firm or a person. It doesn't have to be a person. Both boards have elected to employ firms. So KRS is 61,645. Again, a 9-member board, 3 elected by the membership, 6 appointed by the governor. And they also have the 2 employees. One is the CEO. The chief executive officer of KRS is John Chilton, who has been on PPOB, and some of you may know him. And then they also are required to hire a legal counsel, and KRS is in the process of hiring a firm now. KPPA is an 8-member board. It is made up of...
One moment.
Sure.
I have a question from Representative Graham. Okay, go. Thanks.
Okay, the KPPA board is our 3rd board. It has 8 members. All of them are members of the other 2 boards. So the chairs of each board are by statute part of that board. The chairs of the investment committees are by statute part of that board. And then each of the board chairs also nominate or appoint a elected person and an appointed person on that board. So 8 total on that board. That one does not have a chief executive officer. It has an executive director. That's Mr. Igger, who's on the phone with us today. And he is responsible for the 200 or up to 270 employees of KPPA as an entity of the Commonwealth.
Well, as you have gone through this, let me just ask you, are contracts Are contracts included in the 75%?
What kind of contracts?
Just contracts that you have made with anyone, any contracts?
And I'm sorry, and where's the 75%?
Well, I'm just saying, in the 70, just period, are contracts
Okay.
included in
Contracts were, so of the 23 and 24 budgets, about 75% is staff. So that's the KPPA
Okay, that's-
staff.
okay.
That's the CEOs, the counselors, the accounting staff, those 200,
Okay.
up to 270, but it's usually about
But that's
250.
included.
It does not include
That
any
does
of
not
our
include-
contracts. So
okay.
then another 3 million is our contracts for the
Okay.
actuary, the auditor, legal contracts. There are other general contracts, medical examiners, things
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
And then operations is another 8 or 9 million, which
Okay.
is IT and,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
okay.
Go right ahead.
Okay. And then the last question you guys had was, how are the costs associated with the funds? So by statute, it's all comes from the pension funds. Health insurance does not pay for any of the administrative expenses. So we have 5 funds, K hazardous, C hazardous, and state police. Historically, that has been, and I gave you some history here, that has been based on membership as of 6/30 the previous fiscal year. So for fiscal 21, membership 6/30 of 2021, moving forward into fiscal year, 2020. Fiscal year 21 has the 31.24% of administration would go K non-hazardous, 3.34% goes to K hazardous, and so on, as you can see on this. Per the changes when under the new governance structure of the 3 boards, KPPA has the requirement, the statutory requirement, to decide how they're going to do that. So the KPPA board assigned a trustee from K and from C, and the 2 CEOs, and they've been meeting in groups and looking at some options. They met as recently as this week. They are preparing a recommendation that then they'll take to KPPA at the next quarterly meeting, which is March 24th. And at that meeting, then KPPA will have to decide if they're going to accept that recommendation in full or if they'll tweak it. They're looking at something other than this, or perhaps a hybrid of that. They've looked at a whole lot of possibilities. So more to come on that. But KPPA will have to decide that. And then they'll have to decide as well, do they want to back up and start at July 1 or not? But all of those decisions will come perhaps at the March meeting. That is the end of the questions that you guys sent me ahead of time. Is there anything else I can answer for you?
I want to thank you, Ms. Atkins, for coming in, and thank you, Executive Director Eager. Do we have any questions? Yes, Representative Reed.
Just a few.
Sure.
On the newly created positions, did the KPPA board approve the newly created deputy director position, or does the executive director have sole authority over that appointment?
The executive director has authority for his 270.
Okay.
Or hers.
Okay, that's it right now.
I'm good. I'm fine.
I do have a question for you, Ms. Atkins.
I'm sorry, can I add one thing to that? Mr. Eager could respond more completely, but he does consult with the chairs and things like that. He talked to them ahead of time before making that choice. But they don't have to vote through it.
Yeah, the bylaws state that the responsibility for staffing and compensation rests with the executive director. But yes, most recently, in the recent past, Rebecca was appointed deputy executive director. And I had the authority to do that on my own, but I consulted with both the K and the C and the KPPA chairs, advising them this is what I wanted to do and seeking their blessing, and I got it wholeheartedly.
That's also 615058 B and C. It's a statutory that he sets compensation and controls the 270.
Thank you. I do have a question, Ms. Atkins. For the 21-22 budget, you have an additional request of $1,302,500. That's a new appropriation. Could you explain what that's being used for, or why we're needing that?
I'm sorry, where are you looking at? 1 million, what is it, 1 million?
I'm looking at the 21-22. This will be a new request, and it's in the amount of $1,302,500.
I believe those are the defined calculations that you're looking at. We asked for the budgeted amount to stay flat, and the defined calculations are I have a list of them. They include COT costs, they include facilities, they include fire and tornado insurance, fleet management, GSC, which is the training, personnel board, postal services, and then they have the governor's salary adjustment, some sort of 5%. That's 1.316,300. So that's exceeds the 1.3025 that you're looking at.
Okay.
So I'm not sure exactly where.
Okay.
Rebecca, would the medical review be part of that too?
No, that should be part of the. That was in the 21 budget as well.
Okay.
Oh, that is that. Okay. Yeah. So that's okay. Good. Yes, Representative Reed, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One more on administrative charges. Is the KRS staff, executive director, general counsel, are their salaries being charged to CERS? Their fees?
Say, are the KPPA executive director and general counsel
Right. Are they being charged to CERS?
right now? Yes, they're
Okay.
all being charged by this percentage in 2022, but that's the decision the KPPA board will. The small group is making recommendations on, and the large group is the KPPA board as a whole will vote on in March. They could put it off. I mean, they could extend the discussion longer than March, but.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I want to take a moment and say thank you to both of you for coming here. I grow a little wiser every year, especially since serving chair of this budget review subcommittee, and it's because of you being able to come here and actually share this information with us, and it is truly, truly appreciated. Do we have any other questions? That will conclude it. Thank you very much. And that has us for our meeting. And can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? We're adjourned.
Hey, lady, what's going on?
Ms. Atkins.
No, I just had a meeting. That's why I was late. Oh, God. Okay. 4 Tiffany's bill?
And the house